We can't hear you.
Oh, thank you, Jake. It's always helpful if I take myself off mute, isn't it? Just going over two things that we're going to be working on with Matrix. We are going to have Matrix interact with the therapy department for Benedictine. So they'll be loading all their information sheets right into our document section. So we won't have to ask them to print, give it to us, and then we upload it into our documents. So we're working on that. And then the other one for Minnesota is they are currently working on doing our discharge summary, so that we won't have to, like the resident roster, the discharge roster will auto-populate when we have our discharges for assisted living. So those two things are in the works. And we are now recording the session, so welcome everyone. I thought we'd kind of start off today about how we are presently filling out our service plan for our residents. And so as the nurse, once you print out that service plan, are we filling this section out on the back of the services? And everybody has this in all the states because we all have the same pricing. You, of course, don't have these same prices, but you have the same levels with the same points. It could be memory care, which you would see 2 levels, or this would be an example from assisted living. And so when we get our point value, and let me just jump over to senior living for a minute. When we as a nurse get the clinical evaluation completed and we are, let me just unclick these. And it's determined after we do the evaluation what the point value is and what the level is. And then we have to go over to the service plan, because as you know, it's the mirror image and the service plan is already made for us. It gets made for us by the evaluation. So basically we are printing our service plans with the schedules for Minnesota, especially. But when we print this, the nurse really needs to fill this out. So we print if there's any change, right? That's our policy of Benedictine. If we change a service, whether we add or subtract, we want a new signature. And so you'll have this service plan with schedule summary of the points. And when you have someone with a total score of 0 and a care level of 1, or maybe a total score of 4, that means that most likely they do not have a daily service. Anything under 15 could potentially be just a weekly service. And you would know that because you filled this out. So these levels are really for a daily service. So when we look at that and we have someone who's at 4 points or 0 points, you really want to indicate that there is no level. Or if they have just a weekly service. This isn't for billing to figure out, this is for nurses to figure out. We need to look at their score. Matrix can't read 0, so it will always come up 1 will be the minimal, but that doesn't mean that we as nurses can't figure that out. We would not check level 1 because there is no points. So then we would put an X here under weekly service and we would write what that is. It's a weekly service of a bath. And so if you have a bath and you know it's a 30-minute service, you're going to come down here to your a la carte prices and you'll figure this out. That 30 minutes of RA fee time will be $28 because it's 2 15-minute increments. So I'm gonna write weekly service of a bath, $28 per service, and I'm doing these on Fridays. The reason why I added in Friday now, because some months have 5 Fridays and some months have 4 Fridays. So billing will figure out how to put that in as a recurring charge. And then you want to, talk to your residents' family about that. Is there any questions on how to fill this section out for billing? I'm going to check my chats. No. I do see a lot of problems when I'm auditing. The number one problem is those that are under 15 points, going back and looking at these schedules and seeing if there's anything in here. And if it's not a daily, so they could only have 10 holes, it would only be 5 points. Then they would be a daily level because it's a daily service. So then you would pick level 1. So it's really,
Linda,
yes.
quick question. For the weekly service, if it's a bath once a week and on the service plan, it says estimated time is 30 minutes, but the cost here for the RA charge would be every 15 minutes. Is it accurate then to double this so that it's 30 minutes, because that's what a bath is estimated for, to put double the amount here?
Correct. So you would duplicate 2 15-minute charges, which would equal 14 times 2 is 28. So
Just
you
wanted
would
to
put
make
an
sure.
X here, weekly service of a bath for $28 per service, because you are saying it's a 30-minute shower up in your services. Yep. Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up. Does that make sense to everybody on the call? I think that's the number one error that I see when I'm auditing your service plans. I always zero in on anyone under 15 points, and I'm just looking to make sure we're not overbilling them. Now, they could have 2 weekly services. And so what I would do if I have a med setup and then a bath, if I have a med setup weekly, that is a 30-minute service also. So I would take $50, 2 15-minute increments. And I would write that here, med setup for $50 per week on Mondays. And then if I get 2 baths a week, I would then write 2 showers per week at $28 each on Mondays and Fridays. And then the billing can figure out how to put in those reoccurring charges. If it's under $450, I'm going to charge them a la carte because it's cheaper for them and we want to be a good steward of resources. Now, if it's over $450 because of your a la carte pricing, I can ask them, it's cheaper just to go into the level 1, even though you're not on a daily service. And then you have some additional points that you can use up for other things if you want something else. So you have to kind of be very flexible when it's underneath 15 points. You have to really take a look at that as the nurse. And then once this is signed and you sign with them, this has to go to billing for billing to put it in. So this is the trigger for billing. Billing cannot see what the service levels are. It is up to us to manually make this out and then give it to our billing people. If you have EW, you can put an EW line in here. If you have a respite daily fee, you wouldn't pick out any of these. You would just click the respite daily fee of $185. I also want to just reiterate that we have been printing the evaluations for signatures, and it really is not correct. We need to print the service plan for signatures. The service plan is the one with all the language, meeting the Minnesota Department of Health language. But for Benedictine, it's also meeting all our pricing, and that is not found on the evaluation. So make sure that you are printing the right service plan, going with the right evaluation. For Minnesota, you have to have the full version because we have to have the scheduled items. And then at the end of the month, you should be verifying that everybody is in the current level before your billing goes out. There's a question: to you staff member, do you need residents to pay the coordination fee? Example, doing a resident's laundry. So you're talking about residents on services and residents not on services. So there are communities that have IL. And if we go back to the law on residents on services and residents not on services, let me see if I can find it. Dalton, I wasn't prepared for that question, but I sure, let me see if I can find it real quick. No, don't be sorry. We like to get all this done. So people on non-essential services do not need to pay do not pay the care coordination fee if they're IL and they're just getting housekeeping or laundry. It's not a nursing function. Let me see if I can find where it talks about that. I always refer back to the book. Supportive services, assisted living services. So let me go. It doesn't want to, hang on one second. We'll find it. Oh, it just doesn't want to trigger over there. Okay, so we're in section 4. So supportive services are laundry, shopping, household chores, housekeeping, arranging appointments, and an I'm okay check. That's the definition of a supportive service. We consider that independent living if that's all we're going to do. We don't necessarily have to do a service plan because assisted living is defined more of the cares, the diets, the med management, the hands-on. Once we start as, if it has to be a nurse or an aide doing it, then it's considered assisted living. So these residents are residents with no services. Does that help define that a little bit? Okay. So they wouldn't be under a care coordination fee because a care coordination fee is really about being under the nurse. And so these items don't need to be supported by the RN. And now I'll try and do something a little bit better to kind of define that a little bit more for the communities in Minnesota. The second thing I wanted to talk about is the facilities I'm okay checks. In all of our marketing, we are guaranteeing that we do at least one I'm okay check every day on everybody, right? There's a couple of facilities that do 2. I believe, but typically we only do 1. And I'm not seeing a lot of the I'm okay checks being done through here. And so I want to make sure that when you're doing your evaluations, and every state has a little bit different evaluation, but the same core question. So it may not be 110 in your state, but according to your marketing, if you're saying I'm doing an I'm okay check, we have to then make sure we're checking this and scheduling that I'm okay check. And what we need to do with that is put it at probably the same time. I do encourage people to think about the lunch meal, because there's a lot of residents who sleep in the morning and don't go to breakfast. And there's a lot of residents who go out at supper. So kind of the noon meal has always kind of been the easiest, I feel like, but do it to your community, but have some kind of consistency. If someone is gone at dialysis 3 days a week, I'm just trying to think of something, and they're not there at noon, theirs might be scheduled at a different time. But then it's documented that we checked them. You'll see in Minnesota, I put a new quick note in there that if the resident isn't found, they have to notify the supervisor, because we can't just say, well, I didn't see him, so too bad, you know, maybe tomorrow. But no, we have to visually lay our eyes on everybody who is on services every single day, unless you know they're on an LOA. Anything above and beyond that is a safety check. What I kind of want to go over is those residents that that need every 2-hour safety checks, or we have someone and we do these rounds. Rounds aren't really a assisted living verbiage. It's more of a skilled nursing home that they do walking rounds or every 2-hour rounds. So really think about your resident and person-centered, and do they need to be looked at every 2 hours in a memory care? Or does this resident typically sleep from 1 to 4? And so I don't really want to wake him up because I want to maximize his sleep. You really need to look at the person and not a structure of I'm going to check everyone every 2 hours. I also don't want to schedule a safety check on top of another service, because you're already laying eyes on them by doing a med pass or escorting them to a meal. The safety checks are really for in between services to make sure that they're safe, or making sure they have their pendant by them, or just making sure they're still in bed. And you want to schedule it in between the other scheduled services, because this is a 5-point service. We want to be mindful of their money. And we want to make sure that we're being fair to the resident. And these two need to be signed. So everything on that schedules, we expect the staff to sign it. And so I did get a little, and someone just asked if I send this out after. The meetings are all recorded, Cindy, and they will be uploaded into the Matrix Care site, and I send a pathway once it's uploaded. So you can look forward to a follow-up email once Lisa loads it into eSource. I'll let everybody know where to locate it. Gosh, no, I don't even know where I put it. I got something from Leading Age about the I'm okay checks, and I meant to have it pulled up. I'm at a community today and I got kind of sidetracked. But I'll send this out to you guys afterward. It's kind of a nice roadmap. I think it's a little lengthy, but it's not bad to look at. But it's what is an I'm okay check, and having a system. What is a safety check? And it kind of talks about that and your role as a community to have these completed. And I'll send this out so you guys can kind of look at it, but it's got the statutes on, you know, what it's defined as. So it's really a nice little thing, but this is what I like, the general recommendations for an I'm okay check. and what it's about, and make sure that these check boxes are really looked at as far as a process for your facility. Do we have a way to audit our I'm okay checks? Because this will be big on the Minnesota surveys. So they want to see that we're really checking on the residents. And then of course, if you see something, say something, right? So they do talk about, like, I walked by a door and the newspapers have piled up. Well, we can't just enter that room if they're not on services, but we can alert the housing manager or the ED that there's something wrong, and they can enter that apartment or send somebody in. It's just some really good processes. I just think everyone should take a look at this and take this a little more seriously, because I do think it's going to come up a little bit more. The residents have a right to opt out of the I'm okay check, and we have to make sure that we know that. And how do you train for that? And I think we have that on one of our forms already. But I'll send this one out. It's just very nice. Gives you a little bit more. This might be a great thing to do over a nursing assistant meeting. Just kind of go through why we do it. I think sometimes they think we're just over scheduling things for residents, but they have to know the why sometimes. And that follow up on a failed check, like how are we following up on someone? We want to make sure we have our systems in place. So this will be sent out today for you guys to kind of look at. And then the last thing I'm just going to go over is our flow sheets that we have assigned to us. And we've been talking for the last couple of months, and I talk about this on my visits to your communities, that the less flow sheets we have and that we're utilizing for our medications and our EMR orders is more manageable. And so when we started Matrix in all the communities, everything was inherited. So we had a lot of skilled nursing home flow sheets and tarot meds. Like, we don't use that flow sheet. So we have talked at every community, ADLs should never be scheduled on your orders. It should all go through the evaluation, with the exception of basic care in our North Dakota homes. We should not be using, I'm trying to think, radiology, respiratory. We're going to start trying to make sure there's no orders on these flow sheets, and then we're going to start inactivating them. Another way we are cleaning up Matrix. As you notice, we're cleaning up Matrix, and this is another project that will be ongoing, but this will be the next step. So making sure, like, look at your orders, decide what flow sheets you want to use for your community. Do you want all meds to go on just meds, or do you want to use meds and PRN? Some facilities don't use the PRN flow sheet. They just put everything onto meds and treatments for the aides. And then anything that is nurse related goes to the nurse only. And then if they self-administer meds, we want to use a self-administration flow sheet. And then general would be everything we don't want to show up on EMR. And so I've been working with communities trying to clean these up so we can start inactivating them. Some of these are from the corporate inheritance, and so I have to wait for every community to not use them for AL, and then I can remove them, and other ones I can do it from the facility. So we will not be inactivating anything if there's an order on it. We will always check prior. So you know, have the discussion with your nurses, make your plan, and then decide what flow sheets you want for your community and how you want orders to be presented so that we don't have, say, a diabetic med to a diabetic flow sheet, but we didn't assign that flow sheet to the EMR, so then the aides don't see that. That's where all these stem from. Every order is on a flow sheet. And, oh, thank you, Matrix. Let me sign back in. I'll go through that EMR setup with you guys. So again, I'm just gonna pick on Northfield. In your EMR work list setup, every single unit that you have for your staff, if they have an AL unit 1, you are deciding what flow sheets they would be seeing. So you typically wouldn't want them to have an ADL flow sheet because anything on ADLs should really be on the matrix evaluation. So this flow sheet stems from the orders. Again, general, we usually don't want any orders from general showing up on your EMR because they're going to see everything like PT/OT orders, post orders, and it makes them sign those off on the EMR. So making sure there's nothing we don't want to miss that's already tied to the general, and then we can come in here and uncheck it. You'll see this assignment is an aide, so they can't see the nurse only. And if we go to the nurse only work list, we would want the nurse to see all the lab orders and all the nurse only orders. That makes sense, correct? So yeah. When I'm doing an order, I'm going to make sure if it's a vitamin B12 injection, the aides can't give that. I have to make sure I put that on the nurse only so that when the nurse checks her work list every day, it will pop up for her to administer. Was someone going to say something? I think I cut someone off.
Linda, this is Horan. So if the nurse only administration is not checked, the aides will not see it. Is that right?
The aides will see it.
Oh, they will still see it even if it's not checked?
Well, this is the nurse only work list, right? So the nurses on EMR can only see the nurse only in the lab. If I'm an aide on the memory care, I only see these work lists.
Whatever is checked.
So they do not see anything that's assigned to the nurse. That's the EMR. This is all EMR driven.
Okay.
Now the to-do list, we have a shared to-do list, and I think that's where people get confused. Everything from the evaluation goes to the to-do list, and that one is shared. Nurses and staff, you know, all your aides see the same thing. But this is where we want to clean up. This is where, like, we have general here, and we just want to make sure there's no orders on the general, so we can uncheck this at the aides that we don't need to put over to a medication or a treatment for the aides. So the nurse, you know, your floor nurses, or if you're the only nurse, you want to check care assist every day because you want to make sure you're coming in and you're looking on your EMR. So if I'm signing in as a nurse today and I'm coming into my assignment and I go to my EMR, I am only going to see these two flow sheets from the order page, and I'm only going to do what I need to do. So this drug here is for the nurse only. For some reason, it's my demo site. So I needed something to flow into the nurse only, and then I would go ahead and give that. medication. And I'm always kind of nice to the nurses when I'm doing a nurse only. I make it for the whole shift because, you know, life happens as the only nurse in a building and you may not get your EMR till 10 o'clock. I don't want to miss any meds and have them be late. So, and then all your labs should show up. So if you have an INR due today, I know I have the lab coming to draw that. I need to make sure I'm watching for that return. So anything from the orders that you want the nurse to know about, you use these two flow sheets. Now, if I'm an aide and I'm signing on, and I'll sign in now as an aide, you'll see here on my EMR, I only see things, the med, PRN, and treatments. And that's a good, and it should have COVID. That's a good amount of flow sheets to use because I don't want them to run through the diet and through everything else. Sometimes we get aides saying, oh my gosh, I'm overloaded. I see all these things. It's because they say no here and they just see everything, every single order because they bypass the work list. And so now when I'm on my EMR, I see every single flow sheet. And now I'm seeing all these orders that have nothing to do with maybe what I need. And I'm trying to think if I have any on my demo site. But I would see housekeeping. I would see everything not relevant that I need to sign off on. You're going to see every single order, every PT, OT, every diet. I don't need to see all those. Now we have, some communities have done well and started the housekeeping. And hopefully we can move more on that. But housekeeping, if they get onto their EMR, they only see the housekeeping flow sheet. They can't see the meds. They can't document the meds. They don't have access, but they do see what rooms they have to clean today. And it's really a nice little feature to set up because you're now giving them a nice schedule. It's documented. I see that they have housekeeping. I put in my instructions what I want them to do for that 30 minutes. They hit prep and give and complete, and now it sends it that it's been done for the day. And so trying to get more communities on the housekeeping is very nice. It's very quick to do, and it gives your housekeepers some items to do, and it's all documented then. And so they know that they have these 6 people to get done today. Any questions on flow sheets? I'm gonna start working with communities one-on-one for those flow sheets. And so you'll be getting a email, or if I'm on site, we'll do it together while I'm there, but we'll try and minimize that. You'll notice in Matrix, you're seeing less and less of all these tabs. When you hit a tab, you'll see less and less, trying to clean up some of the confusion that we've been working at, me and Stacy and Shelly, and now Megan has joined our group. And so just trying to clean up a lot of this. It just causes less errors in the long run.
These people who put their video face on and they're not even looking, or they're like this.
I know.
I'm thinking, what if
Does anyone have anything that they want to talk about with Matrix? Any struggles or something good that you found out that you could do with Matrix, or anything you'd like to share?
Linda, this is Haran. You were going to send me an invite. I'm not sure if this is where we would talk about scheduling something for all staff to see on the to-do list that's non-resident related.
Oh, that's right. And I'm at Madonna's this week, and I was going to teach them how to do setting up schedules for non-resident tasks. And then we didn't quite make it there. We ran to like 5 o'clock. So I apologize, I didn't get to, but yes, I can do that right now.
And it's kind of like how you did the review resident service plan, where it just shows up and it's not, I know how to put things in a different area, but it looked different the way you did it.
Okay, so we have 2 different things that we can do under matrix. And I'm under your site. Hold on. So if I screw anything up, you'll have to get at me later. But if you have
Will
a
do.
resident and you want to add in a service for them on the to-do list, you can do that. Or if you want to add a non-resident task to your aides assignment, such as shift to shift report or charging your phones before the end of the shift. So what was the task that you wanted to add? Hold on.
I wanted to instruct them to review the
Service plans.
no, we have that already. You put that in, I think.
Okay.
The orientation to new resident binder. We have a 3-ring binder in the nursing office. And it has orientation to new resident or change in service plan.
Okay. So you're not
So
going to use the scheduler for that. You're going to use a 3-ring binder. Because I can show you both ways. And I think I made it for your facility.
You did, the binder. So
let me
I want
show
them
you-
to look at, I wanted them to look at the binder every
Okay.
day that they work
Yeah,
to find out whether or not there's anything new, because they're
Right.
not, I do it part of the new hire, like training and all of that.
right.
But I want to remind them at, during their shift to look at that, to get to know new people.
Okay, so if you wanted to consider down the road, getting rid of the 3-ring binder, let me show you something. Under facility, under scheduler, I believe under the to-do list, I already made you 2 templates. Here's a new resident orientation and here's a change in services. So when I have a new resident, and I'm just gonna pick on somebody. Anybody new in here?
This is Marshall. I'm the new DON, Duluth, Minnesota, and I haven't gone through the basic training yet, but this is a question that I was going to ask as well, because we have the same. So,
Gilbertson, Linda.
Okay. So Gilbertson moves in and I am looking on him and I want the aides to know that he's new. I already have the template set up. I just have to go to resident and then scheduler. And I'm gonna flip over to the to-do list and I'm gonna apply a new one. And I put yours under other, and I know that just because I made that. And then I have new resident orientation. You can now start that for 2 weeks. Let's just say I take this open end off and I run it for 2 weeks. Every shift has to now sign that I have a new resident, summary of services. So see 3-ring binder for orientation. Is on, I'm not going to save this for you, but is on med management, bathing Mondays and Fridays. And you can just do a little summary. If I know any likes or dislikes, hates milk, call me Joe.
It's so hard to follow her. We are so behind with even her teaching us what the system does. I'm like, I'm listening to her.
Who's ever speaking, and if you need more training, you can always contact me. I'd be more than happy to set some training up. These are just like little mini sessions once a month. So, so I would go ahead and I would save this, and what it's going to do is it's going to show up on their to-do list as an extra service, but it's going to be embedded in here every shift, and they will have to sign it off that they know they're new. That's one option. The other option is under the facility scheduler, I go to non-resident tasks, and this is everything I have set up for them to do. What's in blue is still active, and it looks like you deactivated some of these out. So I could add a schedule, and it would be all staff to review what's it called? A new resident binder?
Orientation to new resident binder. Or change of service, I guess.
Oh, I only have so many characters. So I'm just gonna write to review resident binder. We might have to shorten it up. So the category would be, you pick the category, and because it's non-resident related, because that's what we're under, it's not a particular resident is what it's saying. And so I can just pick other. I can pick a start date. I can do it every shift and make every shift do it. I can go ahead and do AM, PM, all 3 shifts. And then you want the work list, not the community. And so you have your choice now if you want one common task for all the selected work lists, and these are your work lists, or do I want a separate task for each selected work list? If I do one common, it's gonna go ahead and whoever signs it first, then it'll be signed off in all of them. So you probably want a separate one for this one. And then you don't need to select positions, and then just hit save. So now the aides are going to see this under here. It'll pop up as a non-resident task. It'll show up here for them to sign off just like they would anything else in their to-do list. But it's only visible under this page view, the first one that's chronological. You can't see non-resident tasks in this grouping or in the resident grouping. And it tells you that up here, flags you. So I just let my staff know, please check your non-resident tasks before you move on to your, and you can get them all by unchecking the resident tasks, and then you can see anything that they need to do. So non-resident tasks are really great for those sheets that hang up on all those duties that you have to do for your shift. You can make them all right in here and get rid of all those hanging sheets, so that we're really enforcing the use of care assist. Is there anything you want me to show you again on that? Was I a little too fast?
No, that was a good reminder.
So again, it's in Elite where you set that all up under Facility Scheduler. You have your resident tasks to-do list. The general is not for us, it's for the skilled nursing home. I, at this time, can't turn that off, but we're working on it. So it's the to-do list. So if you want a doctor's appointment, a change in services, new resident orientation is what I put in at Northfield. Or you can do non-resident tasks for all those little things that you want your aides to do throughout their shift and sign that they did them. To get these templates, you have to make the template, and then you have to go to the resident, search the resident, pick your resident, and then go to resident scheduler to find those templates under that to do. So if she had a doctor appointment and she needs to get ready, you pick the doctor appointment. I can pick tomorrow's date. It's one time and I can put my detailed notes in for them to have Joyce ready tomorrow for her doctor appointment. Just kind of some fun things you can add on as you start getting more and more used to Matrix. Thanks, that was great, Hoda. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to forget you.
It's okay. I wondered if you were waiting for this meeting or something.
I was trying to get you with the new nurses at the Madonnas to show them, but we just got a little behind, so. Anything else anyone want to share about Matrix? Any struggles? And anything, I know Minnesota probably hasn't had time, but your new 3.3 is now out and copying over. They finally fixed it. Good reminder, it's really hard to put out these new forms and evaluations when we have in progress out there. And they're always about the in progresses. I finalized like 30 service plans that were holding it up. And then there was another 23 from discharge residents. And so before we discharge in census, we really need to do a better job at closing and finalizing everything open in senior living for our residents so that everything is finalized. It will then, when I want to put out something new, it's much quicker. I don't have to have Matrix come in and finalize them all because we're not able once the census is done and discharged. So don't let your billing people discharge people until we have our nursing stuff completed. It just needs to be better communication, I think, between us all. Nothing else, nothing good happening out there, huh? All right, well, I know everyone's busy and I'm sure you want to get back to your day. So I'll end this a little bit early, and as soon as this recording is on eSource, I will send out the notification. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.